Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Saturday, November the 11th, 2023. We're concluding our week that began with All Saints Sunday, our week of looking at saints. We looked at St. Augustine, St. Catherine of Siena, St. Francis of Assisi, and now today we're going to look at perhaps one of, if not the most recent saint, Mother Teresa. In the case of those other three, we don't know a lot because they lived so long ago. In the case of Mother Teresa, we know a lot more about her, and she was beloved by so many. She was an 18-year-old Yugoslavian girl named Agnes Boiaxiu when she left her home to become a nun. And over the next 20 years, she taught middle-class high school students and was often described by her colleagues as average. But she felt God calling her in 1946 to serve India's poor, and she started with nothing, no shelter or finances. She picked up a woman who was dying in the gutter, who had been partially eaten by rats and ants, and brought her to the hospital, badgering the reluctant doctors until they finally treated the woman. And since then, hundreds of thousands have been rescued, and facilities for orphans and lepers and AIDS patients have been created worldwide. She received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979, and since then has become a household name and a living image of Christian servanthood, now sainthood. Mother Teresa was not a rising star in the church hierarchy. She had no inclination toward a power position in the Vatican. She was just a humble, average nun whom God chose to have a miraculous impact on the world. She was humble even in death. Many people don't recall when she died. I didn't, since there wasn't a lot of media coverage about it. You think there would have been with somebody like her. It'd be the lead story and generate countless TV specials about her. That was what normally would have happened. However, God called Mother Teresa home on a very abnormal news day. You see, she died September the 5th, 1997. And so her death was then reported the following day on September the 6th, the day of Princess Diana's funeral. Television, radio, magazines, newspapers were saturated with continuous coverage of Diana Spencer's life, with hardly a word about Mother Teresa. Even in death, she was able to avoid the spotlight. Some wonderful stories and quotes that I want to share with you. There's so many more, but this is just a smattering of the things that I've come across. She was once attending a party full of dignitaries. The guest list included presidents and statesmen and noblemen from all over the world. They came in their crowns and jewels and silks, and Mother Teresa wore her ever-present sari held together by a safety pin. And at one point, she was engaged in a conversation with a nobleman who was intrigued by her work to the poorest of the poor in Calcutta. And from his vantage point, her work seemed endless and frustrating. He asked her if she didn't become discouraged by seeing so few successes. "No, I do not become discouraged," Mother Teresa answered. "You see, God has not called me to a ministry of success. He has called me to a ministry of mercy." Shane Claiborne, who spent a summer in the slums of Calcutta with Mother Teresa, once wrote about one of his experiences. "People often ask me what Mother Teresa was like," he says. "Did she glow in the dark or have a halo? She was short, wrinkled, and precious, maybe even a little ornery, like a beautiful, wise old granny. But there's one thing I'll never forget," he said. "Her feet were deformed. And each morning during Mass, I would stare at those feet. I wondered if Mother Teresa had leprosy, but I wasn't going to ask, of course. Well, one day a sister asked us, 'Have you noticed Mother's feet?' And we nodded, curious. And she said, 'Her feet are deformed because we get just enough donated shoes for everyone, and Mother does not want anyone else to get stuck with the worst pair, so she digs through the pile and finds those. Years of wearing bad shoes have deformed her feet.' That's the kind of love that places our neighbor's needs above our own," he writes. Mother Teresa was once asked by an interviewer, "What's the biggest problem in the world today?" And she replied that we draw the circle of our family too small. We need to draw it larger every day. She also once said, "Good works are links that form a chain of love." She once visited Australia, and a new recruit to the Franciscan order in Australia was assigned to be her guide and gopher during her stay, and thrilled and excited at the prospect of being so close to this woman, he dreamed of how much he could learn from her, what they would talk about. But during her visit, he became frustrated. Although he was constantly near her, the friar never had the opportunity to say one word to Mother Teresa. There were always other people for her to meet. So finally, the tour was over. She was due to fly back to New Guinea. In desperation, the friar spoke to Mother Teresa, "If I pay my own fare to New Guinea, can I sit next to you on the plane so I can talk to you and learn from you?" And Mother Teresa looked at him and said, "If you have enough money to pay airfare to New Guinea, do you have enough?" And he said, "Yes, yes, of course." "Then give that money to the poor," she said. "You learn more from doing that than anything that I can tell you." Along those lines, I guess, she once said, if you give something that you can live without, it's not giving. She also said, true holiness consists of doing God's will with a smile. She also said, I am a little pencil in the hand of a writing God who is sending a love letter to the world. And finally, when she was asked how she had accomplished such great things in her life, she simply said this: none of us can do anything great on our own, but we can all do a small thing with great love. That's September the 4th, 2016. Pope Francis finalized the sainthood of Mother Teresa, who now is Saint Mother Teresa. Inspiring stories we heard this week, and there's so many more, and there's so much more we could have said about any one of them, and so many others that we could have named, not to mention all the little-known saints among us each and every day that remind us of what God can do through people if they only open their hearts and their minds to his leading. Good message for us to think about for the rest of the weekend, for the rest of our lives. Hope you can be with us tomorrow, as always, for worship at 9 and 11, live streaming both services, and both then will be available on our YouTube channel throughout the week. And I hope to be back again with you on Tuesday. Until then, take care. Bye.